Hey, it's Nate again. I had one more thing I wanted to bring up today that I've noticed. I think something that's interesting that's going to come out of this pandemic from a business perspective is going to be people or businesses that are trying to capitalize on the problem, which I don't think there's a problem with it, but capitalization on this type of pandemic really has to be predominantly predicated on doing it in a moral fashion. It's amazing the size of companies that have become instrumental and very nimble in these environments, and then the ones that haven't. Let me give you two examples. I don't know a ton about them. I've read a little bit about them, but Canvas Bella and S&S Activewear, which are two apparel companies. One's a distributor, S&S, while Canvas Bella is a manufacturer, are selling these masks. And of course, their response, S&S's response, which I believe is predominantly based on S&S's decision, was that you have to buy a minimum of 4,800 masks in order to buy them, right? And now they're finally, I don't know if it had to do with me, but I went pretty high up on the chain, and because again, I feel like this is in a scenario where they're utilizing this pandemic to their financial gain versus the betterment of the greater good. We're only going to sell masks to people that can afford $5,000 or more, basically, is what they were saying, in just masks. And I just feel like that's probably not right. And for them to sit there and argue that logistically it's too hard to manage it, people want 10 masks, sure, but there's a significant difference between 10 masks and 5,000. I wanted to buy a couple thousand for a client, which I couldn't because of that policy, which obviously made me very disappointed in them. And I think those types of companies are the ones that are going to come out hurt in this particular scenario, because they're going to lose a lot of loyalty from customers that they're not taking care of. Then you have other companies like Scholastic Books, which my wife told me a lot about, and I've read a little bit about them, which is for the schools and all that, where you had to order a certain amount and you had to do it, and they had to be delivered to the schools, and the typical logistical stuff that you would deal with in a normal day-to-day normal life. And now they're shipping much smaller quantities, and they did this almost just a real quick pivot, matter of 30 days or less, and they're doing them to individual homes now, and they're doing the right things by people, right? And they're helping people out, and it's been, you can tell companies like that versus the S&S and Canvases, which are two different environments. One chose the higher road, in my opinion, why the other didn't, and they were doing it for financial gain. It's nice that they're selling the masks. The higher level executives that aren't at the street level are going to say, well, we're selling masks, nobody else is. Sure, you're selling masks at 5,000 quantity increments. Congratulations. So is these other large companies. So you're not really helping the individuals, which is the frontline workers. It's not like the people that go to the grocery stores can do this unless they're now buying them from large wholesalers. Now you have double the markup. Right, and so I wanted to buy 1,000 for myself and give them away at no charge, and hopefully I think they're changing that policy here soon, because I think they're starting to see enough complaints come through. But again, it required that type of scenario for them to even look at it from that perspective, versus companies like Scholastic Books that are doing it in the right thing initially. Because again, the people that are making the good moral decisions right away, I think, are going to be the ones that are going to come out far ahead than these other companies that are price gouging or doing things such as what S&S is doing. Not that those businesses won't still exist, but I think that they're going to probably lose a good amount of customers, and or the loyalty is going to go away. They're going to start considering, maybe I'm going to go use Sanmar now, because Sanmar or some of these other companies are really willing to work with us, why they weren't, right? And so it's going to be interesting to see how this all pans out when everything gets relatively back to normal, just because, I've already seen a handful of companies that I'm probably not going to work with any longer due to the way they've responded. Why there's been definitely a few that I will, just because they're willing to help. And for example, my auto insurance, State Farm's helping defer payments, and then they've also helped us with some other claims and things like that we need help with, and they went well beyond where they had to go, specifically my agent, to help out with. Why you get other people that they're just extremely resistant to it. I'm sure there's a bigger picture on the back end, but if you're going to be resistant to it, you better explain why you're resistant to it. And even if you feel like you're not obligated to in this environment, you are. And if you don't like it or not, too bad, but that's just the nature of it, right? You gotta explain to people. The gym stopped auto drafting our members before anybody else. 24-hour fitness isn't. I have yet to see anything from 24 Hour Fitness and why the hell they're still charging people, right? I probably could make an educated guess that their overhead's just far too large, and for them to justify not doing that, but they need to explain that. And some executive that probably sits in a desk that really has lost false sense of reality and on that transparency in a very unique environment like we're in right now, is a bad decision. So hopefully some people understand that, and people that listen to us that own businesses really put that into perspective. The hood cleaning business, I've seen a ton of these companies say, we just force people to clean their hoods. Well, no, you take care of the restaurants. Right now, today, well, this is even 2 or 3 weeks ago, there's been 30,000 restaurants, unfortunately, that have closed their doors, not temporarily, but for good, across the United States due to this pandemic. And so, forcing a restaurant that maybe is doing 10% of their volume right now to clean their hoods, mind you, you want to remind them that there's still a fire hazard. If you force them, there's a good chance, one, you won't get paid, and two, you're going to lose that loyalty long term. We're all in this thing together, and people need to realize that. And again, if you have the opportunity to make money, like we just started making a bunch of masks handmade for this casino because we couldn't order them. We're going to do that because it's what's right for the customer, and we're giving them a very fair price. And then you get the companies, as I've suggested in this video, that have done the alternate. So be aware of that. Make sure you're morally doing things right, and I promise you it'll pay off in the long run if you plan that and the financials in order, which have been on a couple of my other videos. So any questions, let me know, and thanks for listening.